Morning, everybody. Hey, I come to you today to talk a little bit more about figurative language and alliterations. The day is really earlier. It was kind of a bit frigid out here, but now it's getting nice. So I'm outside finally, soaking up some of the sun. Yeah, let's talk about some things with Charlotte's Web. So far we know that Fern and one had this runt pig that she wanted to take care of. She took care of it, sold it to her uncle, which there, Wilbur, what she named him, is living a fruitful life, which means he's eating good, he's making new friends, he has an actual place to live. Let me see something. There, sorry, camera was dirty. So he actually has a place to live and wonderful, having a wonderful time. Then Wilbur finds out he's going to be eaten eventually when the season comes. So he entrusts his trusty friend Charlotte, who says, I'm going to save your life. Charlotte saves his life and the rest is history. It's amazing because now Wilbur's off to the fair. Charlotte has done her job so far. This next one is what's going to happen at the fair. So Charlotte goes to the fair and Templeton as well. So now they're off to the fair. And hear that lawnmower. I was trying to see which one of my neighbors cutting their grass. But anyway, also we're going to talk a little bit more about alliterations, part of our figurative language. So I don't know if you know, but we've actually talked about a lot of figurative languages in school, and right now we're just kind of recapping. And different types of figurative language you find in different types of readings. For example, you may see in fairy tales, you may see personification a lot. Beauty and the Beast, you saw all the teacups and things dancing around. That's a form of personification. In some fictional stories, you see personification. So in uses of alliteration, you see in poems, believe it or not. Peter, Piper, Pecker, Pickle, Peckle, Peppers. All of them begin with P. Similes and metaphors, using like or as. Simile, as fat as a cow. Use as. That's how you know it's a simile. If I say smart like a dictionary, metaphor. You find those in writings where they're really trying to get you to see how smart someone is. You might see them in commercials. You may see that in just fictional writing. And the list goes on and on and on. Onomatopoeias, my favorite. We're going to talk about those tomorrow. Okay? Onomatopoeia, words that make sound. Onomatopoeia, words that make sound. That's exactly what it is. It's a word that makes a sound. Zap, zoom, boom, clump, clam. Those are words that make sounds. So today I'm going to go ahead and finish reading. We are on chapter 17. Yep, chapter 17, titled Uncle. They are at the fair. And I don't know if I mentioned, but Charlotte and Templeton made their way to the fair as well. So let's see. Trying to see what that line was. Okay, here we go. When they pulled up into the fairgrounds, they could hear music and see the Ferris wheel turning into the sky. They could smell the dust of the racetrack where the sprinkling cart had moistened it. And they could smell the hamburgers frying and seeing balloons aloft. They could hear sheep battling in their pens. An enormous voice over the loudspeaker said, "Attention, please. Will the owner of a Pontiac license number H2439 please remove your car away from the fireworks shed? I repeat, a Pontiac with the license plate H239, please move your vehicle from the fireworks shed." "Can I have some money?" asked Fern. "Can I too?" said Avery. I'm going to go win all the dolls by spinning the wheel, and it will stop at the right number, said Fern. I'm going to steer a jet plane and make it bump into another one. Can I have a balloon, asked Fern? Can I have frozen custard and a cheeseburger and a raspberry pop, asked Avery. You children be quiet till we get the pig unloaded, said Mrs. Arable. Let's let the children go out by themselves, suggested Mr. Arable. The fair only comes once a year. Mr. Arable gave Fern 2 quarters and 2 dimes. He ran and gave Avery 5 dimes and 4 nickels. Now run along, he said, and remember, the money has to last all day. That's not a lot of money to last all day, but during those times, it might have been a lot of money. Don't spend it all in the first few minutes, and be back here at the truck at noon so we can give all our lunch, so we can all have our lunch together. And don't eat a lot of stuff that's going to make your stomach sick. And if you're going to go on those swings, said Mrs. Arable, you hang on tight. You hang on very tight, you hear me? And don't get lost, said Mrs. Zuckerman. And don't get dirty. And don't get overheated, said their mother. Watch out for pickpocketers. Caution, said their father. And don't cross the racetrack when the horses are coming, cried Mrs. Zuckerman. The children grabbed each other by the hand and danced off into the direction of the merry-go-round, toward the wonderful music and the wonderful adventure and the wonderful excitement, into the wonderful midway, where there would be no parents to guard them and guide them, where they could be happy and free and to do as they pleased. Mrs. Arable stood quietly and watched them go. There they are. While Wilbur was being unloaded and taken out of his crate into the new pen, crowds gathered to watch. They started at the Zuckerman's famous pig. Wilbur started back and tried to look extra good. He was pleased with his new home. The pen was grassy and it was shaded from all the sun by the shed's roof. Charlotte, watching her chance, scrambling out of the crate and climbing into the post under the side of the roof. Nobody noticed her. Templeton, not wishing to come out in the broad daylight, stayed quietly under the straw at the bottom of the crate. Why do you think Templeton the rat don't want to come out in broad daylight where all the people are at the fair and everybody is moving around? Think about that. Mr. Zuckerman poured some skim milk into Wilbur's trough, pitched clean straw into his pen, and then he and Mrs. Zuckerman and the Arables walked away towards the cattle barn to look at the purebred cows and to see the sights. Mr. Zuckerman particularly wanted to look at tractors. Mr. Zuckerman wanted to see a deep freeze. Lurvy wandered off by himself, hoping to meet friends and have fun on the midway. As soon as people were gone, Charlotte spoke to Wilbur. It's a good thing you can't see what I see, she said. What do you see? Asked Wilbur. There's a pig next to the pen. He's enormous. I'm afraid he's bigger than you are. Maybe he's older than I am, and he had more time to grow, suggested Wilbur. Tears began to come to his eyes. I'll drop down and have a closer look, Charlotte said. Then she crawled along the beam and was directly over the next pen. She let herself down the drag line until she hung into the air in front of the big pig's snout. May I have your name? She asked politely. The pig stared at her. No name, he said in a big, hearty voice. Just call me Uncle. Very well, Uncle, replied Charlotte. What is your date of birth? Are you a spring pig? Sure, I'm a spring pig, replied Uncle. What do you think I was, a spring chicken? Ha 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 ha. That was a good one, huh, sister? Mildly funny, said Charlotte. I've heard funnier ones, though. Glad to have met you, and now I must be going. She ascended slowly and returned to Wilbur's pen. He claims he's a spring pig, reported Charlotte, and perhaps he is. One thing is certain, he has a most unattractive personality. He is too familiar, too noisy, and he cracks weak jokes. Also, he's not anywhere near as clean as you are, nor as pleasant. I took it quite a dislike to him in our brief interview. He's going to be hard to beat, though, Wilbur, on account of his size and weight. I'm just moving it closer so I can not lean. Okay. But help me, it can be done. When are you going to spin the web? Asked Wilbur. This afternoon, late if I'm not too tired, said Charlotte. The least thing tires me these days. I don't seem to have the energy I once have. My age, I guess. Wilbur looked at his friend. She looked rather swollen, and it seemed listless. I'm awfully sorry to hear that you're feeling poorly, Charlotte, he said. Perhaps if you spin a web and catch a couple of flies, you'll feel better. Perhaps, she said wearily, but I feel like the end of a long day. Clinging upside down to the ceiling, she settled down for a nap, leaving Wilbur very much worried. All morning, people wandered past Wilbur's pen. Dozens and dozens of strangers stopped to stare at him and admire his silky white coat and his curly tail, a kind of radiant expression. And then they would move on next where the bigger pig lay. Wilbur heard several people make favorable remarks about Uncle's great size. He couldn't help overhearing these remarks and couldn't help worrying. And now, Charlotte not feeling well, he thought, oh dear. All morning, Templeton slept quietly under the straw. The day grew fiercely hot. At noon, Zuckerman's and the Arables returned to the pig pen. Then a few minutes later, Fern and Avery showed up. Fern had a monkey down in her arm and was eating Cracker Jack. Avery had a balloon tied to his ear and chewing a candied apple. The children were hot and dirty. Isn't it hot, said Mr. Zuckerman. It's terribly hot, said Mrs. Arable, fanning herself with an advertisement of a deep freeze. One by one, they climbed into the truck and opened lunch boxes. The sun beat down on everything. Nobody seemed hungry. When are the judges going to decide about Wilbur? Asked Mrs. Zuckerman. Not till tomorrow, said Mr. Zuckerman. Lurvy appeared carrying an Indian blanket that he had won. That's just what we need, said Avery, a blanket. Of course it is, replied Lurvy. He spread the blanket across the sideboards of the truck so that it was like a little tent. The children sat under the shade, under the blanket, and felt better. After lunch, they stressed out and fell asleep. And that's chapter 17. The children were actually out running around playing, having a good time. Now they're asleep. So nothing happened too much at the fair, just their first few days. Everybody went and got what they wanted. Pretty interesting. Now let's look at what we got here. Ouch. All right. Turn it this way so we can see. Bam. Hear my little dogs. All right, figurative language. So, looking at figurative language, alliterations. We talked about alliterations. They are where you see the sort of sound at the beginning or the same letter. I like to look at the same letter. Say, for example, here's one that I took from our famous poet, Robert Frost. As the stir crack and the crazes their enamel, with crazy crusting crackling. If you notice, a lot of the words begin with C and CR. That makes this little portion of Robert Frost's poem an alliteration. If you look there, it says the occurrence of the same letter at the beginning of each word. In this case, it has the same blend, CR, crack, craze, with their enamel, with crazy crust crackling. And we all know the famous alliteration, Peter Piper pick a peck of pickled peppers. How many pickled peppers did Peter Piper pick? They also was known as tongue twisters. But They are normally found in poems. Alliterations are found in poems. Okay? All right. So today, I want you all to have a great day. Make sure you're doing your work. It's almost over. A couple more days, you guys. And we are all just be hanging out. Not to mention, I want you all to know that I will be hosting some lives when we get off, just so we can chat and see each other and say hi. Thursday, Williams and Miss Drake will have their live session. I'll get on, but you know, my computer's kind of messed up, but it doesn't matter. I'll be there to say hello to everybody. I will be tomorrow telling you all about our challenge. I'm gonna do one day, and I'll pick that one day. I have a couple people that I need to contact for challenges. Happy birthday, Aiden Cooper. I know it's your birthday coming up. I'm happy to hear that. I hope you watch this so you can see your happy birthday. I will get back to you all later. Peace.